NBS Frontline. The mammoth crowds still sing his name and wave with joy to Dr. Kano Kizabesije, and he speaks with vigor more than ever before. Dr. Besige's return to the political scene has been viewed differently by experts, with some casting doubt.
As an active participant in the politics of FDC first.
As FDC, because I see these guys are very strong-headed, I see they're going to stick to the Constitution or the mandate as provided for in the Constitution, and I see also bending Besige on the other hand.
He returns just in time to cause more trouble to the Najanankumbi camp.
Fighting is good for them because also the Najanankumbi, I don't see it lasting unless someone comes. It may not last more 10 years. It will collapse by its own weight because first of all, even the system itself. There's a one man who ran that party, you and I know, not the president. The Secretary General is running that party right now.
While speculation over his creation of a new party and a return to the ballot where he has been more than 4 times remains, is rebuilding the Blue House a tall order that Power and team are already in overdrive. As 2026 draws closer, the reggae in opposition political parties does not stop. Does the return of Dr. Kizabesije complement the political chessboard ahead of 2026? Should NUP and NRM watch with caution? This is The Frontline. NBS Frontline.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Frontline on NBS TV. My name is Charles Mwangu-Shampagi. Former FDC president, former presidential candidate, Dr. Kizabesije has returned to the mobilization for his Katonga faction of the Forum for Democratic Change with rallies in Kabale, in Mbarara, and other parts of Western Uganda. The big question is, how does this return impact the opposition's preparations ahead of the 2026 general elections? FDC, of course, is still operating at 2 levels. The Najanankumbi faction is threatening to sue the Katonga faction for using the party symbols. Of course, we must remember that as we begin this show, we extend our condolences to the family of Sarah Eperu, one of the senior leaders of the Forum for Democratic Change, who passed on earlier this week. One of the most energetic women and activists for the Forum for Democratic Change during her time. President Yoweri Museveni claims his ruling National Resistance Movement Party has registered, in spite of challenges in the registration process of NRM members, 18.3 million people. Isn't that about the general national voting age population of Uganda? 18.3 million. What is left for the political opposition? The tweet is up. You can read it for yourself. What does it exactly mean? What is the opposition, what is left to fight for? Or is NRM deluding itself by believing that almost every adult Ugandan is a subscriber to the ruling party? We'll be discussing a little bit of that and also pick from the other political parties. Of course, Alliance for National Transformation's Mugisha Muntu and his team have also been in the countryside mobilizing and doing meetings. They were in the Toro sub-region. Most recently, they've been to Kasese and they've been to a few other areas. To discuss those and other issues with me, tonight let me start from the extreme end. Fred Mukasambide represented Uganda in the East African Legislative Assembly and is the senior official of the Democratic Party. I had someone tease you and say, which side of the Democratic Party? Fred, always a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure too. First of all, I greet colleagues and viewers. It is always one party, that is the law in Uganda.
Thank you. We have from the Uganda Media Center, a member of the Frontline, Frontliner, Ofono Opondo. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, but I thought you cheated Mukasambide. He is the vice president of the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Not just a senior official. He's the vice president.
Fred, do you want to add that Ofono Opondo is the executive director of the Uganda government media, of the Uganda Media Center?
But you see, when you are the ones of journalism, you need to be categorical, specific.
Yes.
Don't assume that when you say a senior official could be a deputy treasurer, deputy publicity secretary. But this is the vice president of the Democratic Party.
Okay, we take that. We take that for the benefit of our viewers. We have from the National Resistance Movement, a member of the Central Executive Committee, also represented Uganda, the East African Legislative Assembly
Both
at some point.
10
yes.
years.
Yes. Lydia Wanyoto, very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening to our listeners and the viewers. I'd also want to join Charles by paying my tribute and condolences to Madame Sarah Eperu. I've been meeting her when she was well at Spectrum and many of the media houses. And like you've said, a very strong woman leader from the FDC. In her soul rest in eternal peace.
And from Kira Municipality, Shadow Finance Minister,
What is exciting?
Ibrahim Semojunganda. It is always making me laugh.
No.
He's been waiting.
You are struggling to remember how I asked you to introduce me.
Oh, yes,
That's what is making you
I'm
laugh.
actually struggling. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
Honorable Ibrahim Semojunganda is a member of the Frontline, he's a frontliner. Let me start with you, actually, and ask the question. You've been out there mobilizing with Dr. Kizza Besigye, and people asking the question, what kind of return is he trying to make? What does this mean? One, for FDC, what does it mean for the broader opposition politics?
First of all, we have not been mobilizing. We have been consulting. We, after all what we went through, quarreling amongst ourselves, we took a decision. The FDC National Council took a decision that we need to process 5 ideas that came out after our earlier consultations. Do we reconcile and return to Najana Nkumbi? Do we form a new political party? Do we join existing genuine opposition political parties? Do we take up one of those smaller parties that have stagnated and energize it? Or do we form a pressure group to continue with the work that we are doing when we are still at least one party?
When you're still one Uganda, one party?
One party.
Huh?
So the decision was that the National Council and the leaders at a national level cannot take this decision alone. Let's go and consult the FDC leadership and, where possible, membership. The first meeting took place in Chireka, the place called the Chireka Rehabilitation Center, and I was the host.
In your constituency?
It was a fairly smaller meeting because the police was uncomfortable. They told me, we don't want this. And because we wanted this meeting to succeed, we made it small, deliberately. Of course, police was around, blockaded some of the entrances to that facility. So from there, we said we will undertake some sub-regional consultative meetings. And as I said, where possible, also consult the FDC FDC supporters. So that's how we went to Mbarara. Bushenyi was not scheduled, but they were excited by Mbarara, so they said, please, since you are around, why don't you also come here? Then Kabale, Lukunjiri, Kasese, we will resume next week. Our intention is to cover the whole country, but we'll try to limit these consultative meetings at a sub-regional level. But where other FDC members like Bushenyi did invite us, we will, especially if we are within the same area. We were in Jinja. Now the people of Busoga say, no, we are not satisfied. Police stopped you from coming here and there to want you to return. So this exercise should take 2 months. That was our agreement. And then the decision is taken there should now be processed by the National Council and eventually the Delegates Conference. I have at a personal level said I am on an FDC up to May next year. I am one of those who think that the FDC, I mean us who left the other group, NRM leaning at Najanankumbi, should form a new political platform. I don't believe in quarreling, that we should spend and expend all our energy quarreling over Najanankumbi, the headquarter, over the color of blue, over a key. I don't think that's how I want to I mean, that's not how I want to devote my energy. But I have colleagues who are very emotional. They don't think they can be anything other than FDC. So Dr. Kizza Besigye, as our leader, is leading a team that has gone for consultation. Mobilization will start, and you will see us. It will be more than what you are seeing.
Dr. Kizza Besigye took effective retirement around 2013.
That was
when
retirement.
he stepped back. Now,
that was
yes.
retirement.
Can I frame my question?
Yes.
About 2013, 2012, 2013, then returned to run in 2016, decided to stay out of the election in 2021. Now that you have brought him back to headline this national consultation, what does it mean? What exactly are you trying to do?
He has himself spoken about today when we brought the board of Sarah Eperu at Katonga. He said actually he was shocked. In one of the meetings, he found people with a placard, "You are our sole candidate for 2026. And he said, I told them, watch. Dr. Kizza Besigye took leave from FDC leadership because at that time we were involved in a lot of activism. And you know, political parties are procedure. They are extremely procedure. You undertake an activity and they say, did NEC authorize you? He said, no, because me, I want to fight for freedom with whoever is ready. So I don't want my decisions and decision of activists to be subjected by process of political parties. So that's how he left the FDC to go to Katonga. And many of us, when I was a senior FDC leader until recently, we decided that we will be undertaking civil activities under civil organization. That's how we formed Action for Change and later for God and My Country. Because we said we didn't want to be encumbered by political parties. As I said, political parties are too procedural. They will call NEC, they will call district what, they will call what. So you can spend 3 months without doing anything because political party is processing a decision.
Just a quick one before.
So Dr. Besigye took leave from the FDC leadership. He never took leave from fighting for freedom. What many people don't know, and I see the media keep making the same mistake, even in 2016, Besigye had refused to contest for elections.
Mm-hmm.
I know meetings sat at his home, many meetings. And he said, I don't think we will be able to remove Museveni by contesting in an election. He has himself organized, and he will be the one to declare the results. In fact, he said, if we must participate, we must use it to mobilize masses to rise up against Museveni. 2021, we were in the same meetings almost every day. You remember when I was telling Nandala here, when he was accusing Besigye? At least I attended all the meetings. And Besigye said, I am not going to participate in elections. You will find me here, you can go. I'm going to be reading my books. Please, you will find me after your elections. Today, he still has the same message. He says, we can't wait for 20.
So what is the effect of his mobilization, of the current consultation process?
As I said, these are FDC consultations. We disagreed with our colleagues. The matters were well presented. We reached a point of no return. And we said, I have told you, some of us said, it does not help anyone to continue quarreling. We can go and start a new platform, leave them in Najanankumbi, because they are happy.
Is there a possibility that they will leave you in Katonga and go back to, some of your colleagues will leave you in Katonga and go back to Najanankumbi?
Isn't that what political parties are about? If you choose to go and join Mukasambide and DP, you go and join him. Freedom of association means you associate with people that you like. It's not a prison.
Okay.
If there are those who want to go to Najanankumbi, they can go to Najanankumbi. If there are those who want to leave Najanankumbi to join us wherever we will be, they can come and join us.
I'll come back to you in a moment. Lydia, you come from Mbale, and Mbale has sometimes in recent elections flipped between NRM and FDC. FDC still has a now National Unity Platform and the larger Bugiso sub-region. What is your reading of what many people read as the return of Kizza Besigye to the front of the political arena with his ongoing consultations for a section of the Forum for Democratic Change?
In the last elections, we had a mix of results which did not align to one political party in the whole of Bugisu sub-region. Although the NRM had more parliamentary seats, but we also had the NUP, as you know. We have a NUP leader from there. We also have FDC MPs from Mbale. Where I come from in the Mbale city, NUP won for the presidential elections, but we got one independent constituency MP and a woman MP, but also we got one NRM. So the reading there, I think we do not, yes, there is opposition, but there's more mix than to say Bugisu is one party stronghold, given the results. But the coming of Dr. Besigye back in the mobilization, like Honorable Semuju has given their roadmap, we will get the feel maybe when they come to Bugisu. We haven't felt them because they began from another part of the country. But that does not mean, because I come from the city, does not mean that people are not aware of what is happening. I think they are watching to wait and see what it means to get back Besigye on the front line of mobilization. Consultation, sorry, is calling them. So when that happens,
he says mobilization will begin.
Yeah, let's wait for the visit to Bugisu and Mbale State, particularly where I come from, and then we see what they call the vibes after that. For now, I think they are on watch and see. Yeah, but
what's your reading of the rest of the country?
Is very political alert on what is going on. Yes.
What's your reading of at the national level? What's your reading of the efforts and of course the issues within the FDC?
I think, like Honorable Semuju has said, we might end up with the two split groups. I think one group is determined to move its way, and another also group is digging in, because we do not see any efforts for coming together or reconciling. We see efforts of finding each one of their way, and then they will meet on what they call the debate. They will meet on the ballot box, because they are not leaving the eye on the final goal of the election, but I think they are not agreeing on meeting together or reconciling their differences. And I think that's also normal. Because from what I saw, the Najana Nkumbi leadership are trying to use, I think, both legal and political platforms to say that the Katonga faction should not use what he was calling the brand of the party, both the name, symbols. The symbols. I have seen that coming out to say they are going to use both political and legal means to stop them from using those. Because they are, as they move in the community, they are consulting as FDC. And the Naja group is saying they are not authorized to go out and consult as FDC. That's what I'm reading. But we'll wait and see.
From where you sit at the NRM Central Executive Committee, your last major headache in the 2021 elections was the emergence of National Unity Platform. From about 2017, yes, about 2017 through the elections, and that really shook up the landscape of the opposition politics, but also affected significantly areas that NRM had some strong presence, especially in the central region and other areas. Like you said, they got into your territory in Mbale. Now that Chagulanyi is doing his own mobilization for NUP, Besigye is re-emerging. From where you sit at the Secretariat, are these issues of concern that you're looking at?
Yeah, we did not go back to sleep after 2021 elections. We were able to receive the results. We've been analyzing those results, the causes why we lost mainly Buganda, the perceptions, the rumors and misconceptions, and the politics about why we lost mainly. It was mainly Buganda. And since then, we have done our homework, and we are on the ground. We are able to, we will manage our campaign is really to manage to reverse what transpired in the last elections. And it's not a first time we've done that. In the past, we lost northern Uganda. But as we speak today, even given the results we received this evening, we have been able to increase the membership registration in the areas we had been losing before. Northern Uganda is now under NRM comfortably. Teso, we had lost Teso completely. These are our neighbors. I come from Bugisu. The whole of Teso, it was blue, covering even part of Bugisu. 2001, 2016, people thought we were mad to be in NRM in that part of the country. But as you all know, now Teso is, even the results of today's feedback on the registration, because we had party registration and mobilization between the 13th to 17th of March. And the results are showing a lot new members. We have increased in some areas by 2 million, by 3 million, and these are without institutions, because universities and higher institutions are already, we are at school when we went to do the registration. So the indicators show that the NRM has now a national character. National presence is yellow, and we have our map of Uganda showing most of yellow. Even Uganda, the current book that I came this evening with shows that Uganda, we've been able to up the membership registration, and when we open for people during the holidays of higher institutions, we should raise that. It will from there that we shall now go back and because politics is about numbers also.
Yes, but do those numbers, when you look at those numbers the president was talking about, your party chairman was talking about, 18.3 million people. That's about the entire adult age population of this country.
It is.
It's a country of...
It is about the population of the country by age, voting age, but we just received the report, so we are yet to study it and also analyze the numbers vis-a-vis the reality on the ground. Remember that the national UBOS, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, is going to do a census just
next
May, from May 10th, going forward for 10 days, but also the National Electoral Commission, the Independent Electoral Commission, in January, the first week of January, they will be doing their voter registration. Then NIRA is also going to do registration. We are comparing with other national statistical institutions. So at the end of the day, we'll be doing our plus and minus given other national statistics, like I've told you, from the Electoral Commission of the country, from NIRA, from UBOS, but be able to compare, and then we see whether or not we are on the right track.
Ofono Pondo, let me come to you on the return of Besigye.
Well, first of all, why did Besigye emerge in the first place? Why did he retreat? My reading is that the happenings both on the ground in Uganda and outside Uganda may be motivating him. First of all, inside Uganda, I think he has calculated that the split in FDC gives him an edge within the membership of FDC, and there is no credible alternative to the Najanankumbi faction. And so probably he wants to re-emerge as the leader of that group. And Honorable Semuji has told you, is our leader. Secondly, I think the performance of NOB in Parliament, particularly, and the national political psyche, I think has given him an impression that they are not living up to what they ought to do as the leading opposition. And particularly the ongoing internal fracas, which is likely to split at least the NOP leadership. I suspect that Mr. Besigye is trying to read again in there, that he can take a slice of leadership, but also followership. Thirdly, from the NRM side, obviously there are many mistakes the NRM is making. There are many things we are not attending to. The style of our work takes us back to the question why the emergence of NOP and why we lost Buganda and the president lost Busoga and Mbale and many other places where NOP actually did not campaign. The dissatisfaction, the discontent on a number of issues. I suspect that Mr. Besigye is reading that if the internal liturgy in NRM continues, chances are it is possible to raise discontent, electoral discontent, and somebody who appears to be viable can take that slice of the discontented, which is rising anyway. Notwithstanding the numbers you are reporting with the 18 million, I don't believe it myself. I think it is bloated because if you look at our statistics of the population of Ugandans below the age of 15 are about 50% or 51%. So how can it be possible that out of an approximate number of 46 million, one party can have? But it is okay. With the NRM people, we need to take that and really find out, validate, but also do vigorous campaign. And you see, NRM should not take this lightly because this is not the first time the NRM membership is overmarked. Even in the last election, we were 17 or 11, but the president has never got more than 7 million votes. What? So somebody is not telling the truth somewhere. Or maybe with the NRM people, once we have these numbers, we say we are home and dry, so we don't do the hard work to whip the voters to come actually to the ballot. So, but that's a matter, hopefully, we shall discuss candidly in the NRM. If we have 18, is it actually accurate?
If you go by the statistics just given,
Yes.
at about an estimated number of 46 million Ugandans, if about 52% of that is 15 years and below, and 48% is the one that is 16, 15 and above, or 16 going towards 18 and forward. It means you're calculating almost about 22 million. 16 and above.
For now, I can only say, let the NRM people, let us, the NRM people, have our numbers. We need to validate. But if we live in the folly, then obviously that folly, there will be a rendezvous with destiny. Now, for Mr. Besigye, the other thing I see, I think has been energized by what has happened around Africa, especially the recent election in Senegal. But also, which has some connection back here. And I've said this on this show, I think I said last week. I said, if you look at the rise of Besigye in 2005, 2006, when he came from exile in South Africa, part of the problem was how we, the NRM people, tackled him. And we are seen as high-handed. I think that gave him a lot of mileage, a lot of sympathy. But also, even within the NRM, some people said, if you have been around, the man has just come. Why do you have this hard tackle? And I think...
Why have you been sent into panic mode?
Yes. Some of the reasonable minds in the NRM, I think, just said, this is too much. And that also happened, but it was repeated in the 2020, 2021. If you have a young man, a musician. Nobody had never known him in the world of politics. But you give him a hard tackle, especially where you have young, innocent minds joining the voting population. Don't you think you are likely to send them away to that person who they see is the victim? So the method of the NRM, in my view, led to the surge of Bobi Wine and Noob. And if you look at those areas that...
and Besigye before that.
Yeah, Besigye before that. Because in that environment, I don't think Bobi Wine campaigned. It was just passing through. In my land, he just passed through. But wherever you have a border stage, you have a market, young people who are dissatisfied about many things. They see him as a possible savior. Even when he has no content, they will see him as a possible savior. And so that connects with what has been happening around Africa, where people who appear to have been treated unwell by the sitting government, somebody moves out of a jail and without campaigning. So I suspect that Mr. Besigye is reading that, but I give it to him. He's an old person we have met before, we have dealt with before. For me, does it complicate, your question was, does it complicate
or energize?
Or energize opposition? I think it does complicate. Because going by the past experience, it is unlikely that when somebody has built his momentum, he's likely to give way even when that momentum cannot be sustained into victory. I don't see, for example, that Besigye can, maybe in politics you never say never, that his spokesperson is here. Can he come around with the Najana Nkumbi group, particularly the leading people there? I don't see it. Can he come around with the leading group in DP? I don't see it. Can he come around with the UPC leading group there? I don't see it. And also the issues. Can
he come around with NUP?
I don't see it. And so I think his coming back is complicating the opposition politics. Now, the issues, can he ride the wave on the issues? I don't think so. Because like leader said, what made opposition, general and FDC, and Besigye in particular, tick in 2001, 2006, 2011, in the eastern part of Uganda, northern Uganda, was really war-related issues. People being displaced, property being destroyed, people having unsettled life, and so on and so forth. So he rode on that. The same thing with Kasese, by the way. The same thing with the West Nile. Now, once those issues were settled, I don't see many things except the sensational ones that Mr. Besigye can try. But now that he has also experience in handling FDC, and he has not handled FDC well, and has not handled the general position also well, I don't see that Besigye can be seen by the people in the opposition as the answer to their main issue, which is knocking out NRM, knocking out Yoweri Museveni.
Fred Mukasambide, let me come to you. You're seeing these waves that are emerging, particularly start with Dr. Kizza Besigye, re-emerging on the stage, energizing the FDC base, whichever side they belong. By the way, I have a message here from an FDC mobilizer in Kasese called Mesairi Tembo Kahugu, who says, I am Tembo Kahugu, an FDC mobilizer in Kasese. As a district which FDC found fighting for our rights in 2005, we have not allowed to be a battleground for both Katonga and Naja factions. As per our Sunday recommendation, we have called on the leadership of both sides to reconcile. Then we can move together as FDC to join any potential opposition coalition come 2026. What's your reading of the re-emergence of Kizza Besigye? How does it fit into a contest where Robert Kyagulanyi has been the major face of the political opposition and his National Unity Platform, and of course what you guys are doing in DP, and UPC has been picking up a few seats, particularly in Lango sub-region. How does this impact the battleground, especially in the opposition ranks, going towards 2026?
Yeah, we are actually now living a life of extreme complication. As members of the opposition, I can tell you I have listened very well, and Mr. Fonopondo here is happily giving the points exactly as we are. This debate is actually a two-pronged debate. On the first account, it is a post-mortem debate on FDC. And on the second account, it is a meteorological debate on the kind of opposition politics we are going to have. It exhibits the meteorology, the atmosphere as it is going to be in the next politics that we are going to handle. One thing for sure is that it is very incomprehensible whether there is going to be any understanding whatsoever between the Honorable Samuju's group and the Najanakumbi group. Because it is clear. He has told you the other one is NRM leaning. Now, I think that is not a matter available for resolution as quickly as 2026. So, in my opinion, of course, that, again, explains the post-mortem of the FDC as a party. Number two, as the opposition, it is still a post-mortem on our quest for obtaining power. Complete post-mortem. We are only explaining the death of our struggle to obtain power, and that we have now rounded off to the nearest. You know, I am not a good mathematician, but we used to study rounding off to the nearest, where the next number is less than 5, then you round off downwards. If it is above 5, you round off to the next. Now, for us as members of the opposition, it looks like we have now rounded off backwards. We are now beginning to think about how many seats of parliament we will get as political entities and outfits, and potentially the next struggle is going to be who actually leads the opposition. So what Dr. Besigye is now realizing is, one, when you look at all the political outfits, the entities that we call political parties on the opposition particularly, they have all generated some bit of protuberances. First of all, we are all fossilized. We can no longer move properly. If you want to medically explain it, we have gout and varicose vein in every limb. All political parties. To the extent then that now we need some other diagnosis. What is it? They are outgrowth in every political party. Protuberances. NUP, there is an outgrowth pursuant to how they have managed parliament, and the payment procedures and the processes of remuneration have also resulted into a team almost above, at the verge of leaving the NUP. DP, the same. FDC, the same. Now, what is going to happen is that I am looking at Dr. Besigye trying to see how to galvanize now all the protuberances into one outfit. Now, who is going to be the immediate opponent? It is going to be who is leading the opposition to begin with. So I think we have lost the quest for power, and now, in my opinion, we are going to be now gunneling for who leads the opposition. The kind of antagonism and cataclysm that is going to ensue is going to be so bad to the extent that it is now NRM to determine who should be the leader of opposition. How? Because we are dealing with the protest support, because they are authoritarian in nature. There is no democracy. And in a situation of authoritarianism, there are usually two sentiments, for and against. Now, whoever is seen and viewed as the ringleader is the one that is supported. Now, whoever gets arrested 10 times a month is now going to be viewed by the population as the one holding the mantle against the state. In my opinion, now, running towards December, that is when the determination is going to be made. We don't have a political party that has anchored itself in terms of support on account of what it actually espouses as a political program. No. For example, when you look at NUP, it had survived on Celebrity Panjandram. It was and now once it stops being media happy, it will fizzle out at a speed. The momentum with which it is going to fizzle out, you are going to wonder. Because to the extent that then, when you now see MPs, they are gallivanting, they are now calling Semuju. I'm sure they are calling him. What are we dealing with now? Because now they are beginning to round off again to the nearest. Do I get my seat back?
Are they rounding off forward or backward?
No, backwards. Because forward would have meant that we are gathering towards obtaining state power, which in my opinion, I don't believe is attainable under the current circumstances. But at least we thought that the figment of fertile imagination that certain political outfits and entities had lived in, that figment that we can compete.
Why are you in that very deep state of lamentation over the opportunities for the opposition when all referred to the situation in Senegal just a few days ago?
Now, let me tell you.
You have a young man in Senegal who's now president.
But how has he become president? Number one, Abdoulaye Wade did not stand. The president of Senegal did not compete again. What happened?
Macky Sall.
So he did not compete. What happened again? His son that he had preferred got disqualified because he was born in France. What happened? The leader of opposition, Sonko, had himself also now failed to nominate, to the extent that then he became Haji Alagid of some sort, and one other guy won. Now in Uganda, even the son of the president is not allowed to compete. When he looked around for votes, they quickly maneuvered him back into the army, to the extent that even the ringleaders have been now maneuvered into cabinet. They have silenced any likelihood of competition, even internally. Now, the people who had converged, for example, if you want to assess the last meeting of Masaka, those are not NRM supporters that had come. Those are all change protagonists. They all were looking forward to somebody else. The ones who
came for the party
of MK.
Yes.
They all had turned out to see the next president. Now, let President Museveni do the same rally again today in Masaka and see how many people will entertain his presence.
Wouldn't you be mobilizing for him since you are now in some kind of alliance?
We are not in alliance, and I am surprised we always have this engagement. For us, we designed an agreement for purposes that we could undergo and undertake a dialogue. A dialogue is actually anchored on limbs, including, among others, a possibility of a transition. We are now stuck with our agreement in our armpits.
Is the transition
possibility? It has not been supported by our friends. No, it has not yet. It has not been supported by our friends, and we are now gunning towards an election organized by his own task forces. One is called the Electoral Commission, one is called the police, one is called, and that we are going to be declared winners against him on an account of a thing he has organized. Let's
take a break, and Fred Mukasambide pick this conversation up in a moment. We'll be right back.
Frontline.
Welcome back to this edition of the Frontline on NBS TV, and we're looking at Besige's return to the leadership of the opposition, particularly that faction of the Forum for Democratic Change. You must have seen him in those consultative meetings going on across the country by the Katonga faction of the Forum for Democratic Change. Like Semujunganda said, they started in Kira municipality, in his constituency, then moved on to Mbarara, moved on to Jinja. I had some consultations there, moved to Mbarara, moved to the Chigezi sub-region, and they are still moving across. And Besige is, some people think Besige is rebranding himself, re-energizing his base. And what does that mean? Will he just drive that and stop it midway, or will he drive it forward? How does Besige and Robert Sentamu Kyagulanyi fit as two major opposition political leaders heading into 2026? But can 2026 just be won at the ballot, or does it need some kind of negotiated transition, as Fred Mukasambide and his group at the Forum at the Democratic Party are saying? I have a message here from Michael Chakulaga in Kayunga, Bugerere, who says, Kebi should leave the podium to others 20 years. He has been the best dancer. Now it's high time for him to quit politics. Maybe he must be having hidden agendas to confuse the electorates. Why not a Semuju? Why Dr. Besigye? Michael Chakulaga is watching us from Kayunga, Bugerere. I have a message here from, let me see. Yes, I have a message here from Nahamia Emmanuel Ruguru, who says, Besigye's comeback has nothing to do with NRM victory, but rather FDC and NUP. This time round, their percentage will drop. Here's some percentages that he's giving, but Emmanuel, they are confusing me a little bit. NRM is winning with a landslide victory, Nahamia. I have Mzee Chris Tushabe, is an elder and watching us from Kawarole district. He says, since FDC had done well to build a national character, why did Bobby Wine decide to chase Kizza Besigye from Kasangati instead of joining him? From those many years. Yes, Honorable Fred Mukasambide, you wanted to conclude something.
Yes, so the situation we are heading for, clearly in terms of national politics and who becomes and remains president, is going to benefit the current leader. In terms of what the opposition is going to do as politics that emanates from the kind of organizations that we are looking at, we are going to develop a lot of antagonism, animosity. There are going to be fist fights against political parties on the opposition.
Why?
Each now clamoring to be in the lead of the opposition towards the next election. And it is a natural development. You can also see it now.
Natural development unique to Uganda? Because I have Muyomba Kenneth Kizito here from Mengo, who's asking, he says the question should go to all of you, the panelists, and says, why is it that we lack leaders in Uganda?
No, we don't lack leaders, but leaders lead in a multiple list of directions, to the extent then that they do not lead towards a similar direction. We have leaders. And let me tell you, there is I think this word has got its etymology from German, Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude, or Epikarikase, where you look at somebody taking a lot of happiness in the misfortunes of another. Now, this is what has developed on opposition parties. And it is going to be the moving swan song on the lips of all opposition leaders, that one party gets happier when the other party gets a problem. It has now even strolled down to the leaderships themselves. The leaders. One leader, for example, highlights the misfortune of another to the extent, and I've seen it.
Honorable Kasambede, how can you've been on the stage for some time as a leader from your days as a UID member and leader in UID, from your days as a leader in Makerere University, now a leader in the Democratic Party, the main party, and you're saying, you're talking about how you pull each other down, how you enjoy each other's misfortunes, and you're saying this country still has leaders?
It has got leaders. But you see, they can be bad leaders. Not every bad thing is useless. Some can be used as a bad example. So the bad things that our leaders are doing are going to be used as a bad example in history. So if we want to lead, let us use the good characteristics to lead forward. So
you've ruled out PLU and MK in contention. You've ruled out your party, the Democratic Party. You've ruled out the Forum for Democratic Change, whichever factions. You're ruling out, you said, what did you say about NUP?
Celebrity Panjandra?
Yes, you said that will now very soon do what?
It has divided itself into two.
Okay, you've ruled out UPC. So what is your verdict? What are you saying to our viewers?
Dialogue. The future of Uganda lies in the date of exit of President Museveni. Let me tell you, he has grown beyond the capacity of any institution in Uganda. It is now the degree of fusion of what we would have called the state and what we call the NRM party is inextricably bound together. You know, it is, you cannot even dissect, you cannot determine, because now a SEC member is here. I don't think President Museveni was worried that members of SEC were coming and that he did not know what they were going to decide. And he was so worried that they could have decided otherwise from the objective reasons that made it a logical necessity for that meeting to sit. Instead, they were worried. We don't know which mood Muzei was in. So that means that he leads everything, including even the political party that he belongs to. So until he himself now sets the ground for a transition for Uganda, it is very unlikely that we can have one peacefully. That's what we are talking about as the Democratic Party. We are saying, please, let us promise him everything to the extent that then he can now guarantee, because he has already now organized, for example, because, you know, when Honorable Semuji was there talking about the transition and how the president denied that he actually addressed transition with Honorable Mao, which is true. You know, when you sign an agreement, the agreement was a basis for further discussions. And it was not an agreement of the content.
And you said since you signed the agreement, you are stuck with it.
We are still stuck with it in our armpits because a lot of discussions have not taken place.
No discussion has happened after that.
Not nothing, but we see that there is a blurred atmosphere ahead. We do not think, and even our colleagues here have not even helped to make sure that we generate the substantial oomph that is necessary to push the parties to the agreement to act.
Yes. So in the armpits, do these other colleagues know about it, even if it is in general terms? What are they going to push? Are they going to push something they don't know about?
No, but he says the agreement was signed between their leader and your leader.
No,
I expect a SEC member to be as explanatory as myself on the same agreement.
I'm just asking a question.
Yes.
Because I've also I've never seen the agreement.
You see,
so that
is why we are saying.
Yeah, but I'm also saying that the expectations of Mbide, they're as good as other expectations, I think, of people who signed the agreement. Because I do not expect, okay, let me say FDC, Semuju, and other people, to say, because there's an agreement, let's push. What are they pushing?
You see,
so agreements, about the details of the agreement.
Agreements and the constitutions don't work. It is the implementers that actually follow what they provide for. So our aspirations are the same as aspirations of those that feel that a declaration of them as winners of an election will definitely take place. Okay. So we are the same.
Let me come back to Honorable Semuju. You've listened to the other colleagues discuss.
You keep that thing in your armpit.
They're painting a picture that even the ongoing consultation processes
don't know what they are doing.
You're holding, led by Dr. Kiza Besigye, basically are not going to move the needle in terms of opposition shaking up politics in this country or shaking President Museveni out of power.
I am not as pessimistic as the DP Vice President. I told them during the break I was in Khartoum when General al-Bashir returned from South Africa, where they had threatened to arrest him and hand him over to the International Criminal Court. The way he was enthusiastically received made me believe that he was such a very popular leader, only for the population to chase him like a chicken thief 3 months later. The only advantage and value that Mr. Museveni can add to our political processes is by peacefully leaving power. But leaving, he will leave. There should be no doubt about that. Leaving, he will leave. And sometimes with or without our participation. I saw in Sudan, the women who led the population to overthrow Bashir, the civil society that led to the overthrow of Hosni Mubarak. The political players may fail. We may get compromised. But the opposition against Museveni is not the opposition of leaders. If it was us leaders, that opposition should have crumbled long ago. Because you can count the list of people Museveni has compromised and taken. From our own FDC, he started by taking individuals. Now he started taking institutions. BP, the one of my brother, they went and said, and asked his president in parliament, your members are seated with us here. For you are seated there. I said, now what do we do? So from taking individuals, he took institutions. But the opposition against Museveni is only growing. And that's why, even to allow you to move a bit freely like Dr. Kizza Besigye has in some cases. Of course, he has made police in Mbarara, in Chira, were hauled up in that rehabilitation center. In Jinja, we're not allowed to go to the city center. But even to allow you that, is doing so out of fear. Not that, yes, he may have the instrument of violence, but he also doesn't know what the population will do tomorrow. That Museveni doesn't know, and I can guarantee. And nobody should pretend about it. This population, when Museveni arrested the Honorable Kyagulanyi in Ruuka, he didn't know that he would be fighting the population for the next 3 days. Even me, I didn't suspect it would happen. But Kampala here was impossible. I went to bury a friend of ours, lost a daughter, Oscar somewhere. I almost failed to return to Kampala. In Nakauka, in the villages, people had taken over all the roads. And it's not that that population has gone away.
Yes, but
so the only value that Museveni can give is to create an atmosphere of free transfer of power. These disagreements between parties and I am not worried. The trouble is that you, the media, sometimes you read too much in processes. I have told you 2016, Dr. Kizza Besigye said, I don't want to go for an election. Let us organize for civil disobedience. We sat, people pleaded with him. Sebugo was in tears. 2021.
You're referring to the minister?
Yes, 2021. I attended all the meetings in Kasangati. The same people were crying, telling the Besigye, you must, and he said, no, election is no. Even today, when we are
eulogizing
yes,
Sarah?
at Katonga, Besigye said, those who are worried that he is coming as a please don't get worried. He thinks 2026 is far away. We should now be working together, mobilizing everybody.
Isn't that a sign of a kind of contradiction that going into the 2011 elections, the message was, we do not have to wait for the election. Actually promised a political tsunami, which didn't happen. And every time was, actually Museveni is becoming weaker, he'll get away. 10 years down the road, actually almost, yes. Yes, almost 15 years down the road, we're still talking about the same. And my question is, do you see the political position in its current state contributing to the exit of President Yoweri Museveni? And I've asked this question here before. By 2026, he'll have been in power for 40 years. When he finally leaves, in whichever way he leaves, would you say that it is the opposition that pushed him out?
We have had meetings with our colleagues, National Unity Platform, the ANT, and a few others. Our aspiration is to work together, but sometimes it's not easy. The question you are asking me, I will return it to you. When eventually al-Bashir left, Mubarak left, I want to leave out Gaddafi. Were they pushed out by the opposition or they went on their own? So
Al-Bashir had been in power for 29 years at the time he was pushed out. President Museveni has been in power for 38 years.
Yeah, it does.
Hosni Mubarak had been in power
38 years.
For about 38 years. Yeah. Yes.
For me, it is not the number of years that will determine the contribution people have made, because our biggest contribution has been to raise the levels of civic competence in the country. For everybody to appreciate, first of all, that Museveni needs to go. And for everybody to appreciate that I need to make a personal participation. That has been the reason we go for rallies, the reason we go for meetings, is to bring everybody at par. They may not come as you wish. I remember one time when we asked the population to close shop, saying, we can paralyze this Kampala if everybody closed and stayed home. Some say, no, me, I am a hand-to-mouth person, so you can't tell me to stay home. Yeah, but there are others who closed.
Let me read a message from Jeff Bidandi, who says, General Museveni successfully castrated all the bulls in the herd, or in the corral, whether in opposition or in-house within his own NRM party. He is the alpha and omega in each aspect of the country, especially in a country where there is limited civic activism. FDC is well dissected. NUP is facing its own fate. DP is in a marriage, just like UPC. It's still clear ground for Museveni till further notice. I don't know if your reading of the situation and the circumstances is the same as a viewer like Jeff Bidandi.
In fact, for me, I think when you are all vulnerable, it is easier to work when you're all powerful. When you all face some levels of vulnerabilities, it is easier to have a discussion. But when everybody feels strong and he thinks that I should be the one to take it on, that sometimes also complicates internal discussions. I think we are at a level where we can have a discussion to make the final push. As I said, you may want it to happen this year and it doesn't happen. The people of Libya, for 43 years, they were stuck with Gaddafi. Even in Bashir, you've mentioned others. My worry, Museveni will go. My worry, actually, like one time I said, I only worry that Museveni may go down with the country like Bashir did.
Okay. My considered opinion is that Besigye will not be on the ballot in 2026. The tours christened consultations are not consultations per se. They are disguised as FDC consultations to avoid harassment. They are replaying the Muntu scenario before he formed ANT. They will form a new party because most of the Kizza Besigye henchmen do not want to join NUP. The way forward in 2026 will have to be negotiated, not via the ballot box. That's Ken Mutenyo, spokesperson at the Democratic Party. I have Musana Arafati, Ginger West. He says, Dr. Kizza Besigye is a central opposition force to Uganda politics, and any attempt to come back is critically positive to change. I, however, need a comment from Honorable Mukasa Mbide on the Honorable Matthias Impuga NUP Masaka saga. Is he taking advantage against his immediate opponent? That's Musana Arafati. Another viewer here says, as forces of change, we're very excited about the return of Kizza Besigye. Mr. Museveni is now surrounded. Western Uganda will support Besigye, and Besigye will regain in Acholi, Lango for UPC, and Teso region will embrace FDC. Eastern and Central Uganda will support His Excellency Chagulanyi. Besigye is a game changer. If Kizza Besigye gains more ground in Western Uganda, NRM will collapse. Benomisha Godfrey, NUP coordinator, Greta Bushenyi. I have a message here from, let me check one more message. Yes, this is Mugabe Godfrey from Kavarole, who says, Kano Kizza Besigye tried his luck several times, but if he failed to take power from NRM, let him leave, give a chance to others. Ken is coming back, says, Semoju saying that they want to work together with other opposition groups is a lost opportunity. Instead of joining DP, they formed their own party. Another opportunity came with TDA, they opted to pull Besigye out of the meeting. Who will believe them now? Honorable Lydia, negotiation, your party being pushed out of power, you having no control over your party chairman and the party chairman being stronger than you, what will lead Uganda to, is it a negotiated transition? How can the emergence of people like Kizza Besigye impact any future for the country?
It is public knowledge that the NRM is open to any negotiations and to even share power. If there are people in opposition that would like to join government, we have plenty of them. And they even come and, if I may use the word, they even come and jump the queues because we have so many of them now in the cabinet, in big positions, the ambassadors.
Have they shared power?
Yeah. What do you mean by what do you call power? The power I'm talking about is only the head of state. How many of you can be head of state? It's only one position. But power is bigger than just one position. So if you think, can you listen, Bide,
yeah.
You have your filing under the armpit, so you listen. you have been negotiating, you are putting in the armpit, and then you want other people to follow what's in the armpit, which they don't know. But the issue is, the NRM party has demonstrated that they are willing to share government and they are willing to share power. But if people are obsessed with the taking over the helm of leading Uganda, that's a different story, because now, how many positions can you have in Uganda for the president? So you can only have one president at that time. So if you think that the NRM is weak, and that this idea that they say that you may think that we are weak, but maybe we are like a chain. The weakest points of NRM sometimes become our biggest strength. Or I've just told you we are coming from a meeting that has received
returns from
the
your registration process.
That we did from 13 to 17.
And everybody has registered.
But I was discussing, of course, with even my question, I was saying now, I'm going to study this 18 alongside other national statistics, like I've just explained. Now, you may be laughing at us, but at least for us, it's a process. So if you have not been able to mobilize Ugandans to win the presidency, because every 5 years we go to the polls. Now you are saying, oh, you know, the Electoral Commission is organized by the incumbent. Oh, you know, but we lost Uganda. Didn't he also, the same guy that organized the elections? We lost Uganda. I've said that we are not hand at losing elections, but also winning. Because we one day woke up, we didn't have the Northern Uganda. Actually went to FDC, Lango went, now recently we've lost 2 by-elections. UPC has taken ground in Lango. But we come back and go on the drawing board. Where we cannot win, we negotiate. Where we can win, we go and win. That's why that I would like to say, Charles, that the NRM government, led by President Museveni, has an open door to the politics of the country. Because even our history shows that sometimes it's very difficult to win up front. But now our country has a national character. The party has a national character because we've been able to win without any run. So if you want to know about what you call power, Mbide, you can go up front if you have the fire, if you have the fire. But if you think that the fire will not work for you, you can negotiate and then you wait. Because many people are now saying, oh, you know, this man has grown old. They are all waiting like how somebody would take chance to grab. But and many of us are saying we shouldn't wait for someone to grab. Let's see how best we can. There's a lot of talk about transition. The reason why DP, I'm told now, why President Mao is in government, is he has gone there so that they can negotiate a transition. But the 1995 Constitution of Uganda and the electoral laws attendant to it, Mukasa, you know this very well, we go for elections. So if you think that elections are not going to deliver a presidency or it for DP, and you want to use the ZIT backdoor, whatever, or other alternatives, again, NRM is open. But I do not see us running away from the constitutional arrangements of our country. We have to go for elections. That's why all of us are talking about 2026. But we can have an alternative.
Will President Museveni be on the ballot in 2026? You've been in SEC discussing. You had a prior SEC meeting which discussed the emergence of PLU. It was the NMK movement.
No, we have never discussed PLU in SEC. It has never been in the part of our agenda. But again, like I've said, we are open to discussions. We are open to organize debate. We are open to any agenda, including discussing any group that would like to come and work with the NRM, like DP, UPC, all these guys are with us. FDC individually or institutionally, we are open to discuss with them. And if Ugandans think that the best way to replace President Museveni is through other means, other than the electoral laws and the Constitution of Uganda, we can have a referendum. I think we are open to these conversations. But as long as we are under the political party dispensation now, the NRM party, as day follows the night, we shall have a presidential candidate. And you ask him whether he will be in the ballot paper of 2026. That's not for me to come and tell Frontline. That's for the party process to go through. We are going to have party election structures after we have finished with the register. And after that, we shall have flag bearers from the presidency up to parliament, up to the councillors, up to the LC5. So I've answered your question.
You sat as NEC and decided that for as long as, yes.
I'm sick.
Yes, you're SEC,
Yes.
but SEC agreed earlier that you have one sole candidate and then
in
that position hasn't
in
changed.
2020, we sat in a meeting and gave President Museveni, who is the leader of our party, an opportunity which we resolved and took it to NEC at the national conference to lead us as long as he's able from 2021, where he won the election, and beyond. Okay. But that resolution can always be subject to review because that was the resolution, but we follow the laws of the party and the laws of the country. So 2026, we've begun the process. The register will be done, structures will come and we elect flag bearers, including the presidential. And if the time X reaches and is still available and that's the decision of the party and is willing, he will be the presidential candidate.
See, Africa is very interesting. The handlers and supporters of Bouteflika, they were willing him to the nomination center of Algeria. Yes. And I see Lydia is determined to do that.
If that's the
they were
decision
of the
party
said,
members,
you can't die in office. Lydia say, no, I mean, the man said at 75 you were tired. Now he's 80. And you are saying if he's still able.
You think that
Robert Bwango Rwakasenyi from Fort Portal says, Besigye's return to politics will meet a big challenge because FDC Najana Nkumbi faction is a registered and recognized political party. This calls for Dr. Besigye to form another party, which will be difficult, which they will find difficult to build structures within the 1 year remaining. Meaning, both Katonga faction and Najana Nkumbi faction will be looked at as underdogs to win the 2026 presidential elections. How I wish they could unite with NUP and merge for the common goal to compete with NRM. If not, NRM will win again come 2026. Robert Bwango Rwakasenyi. Another viewer here, I'll take a few more messages. Besigye coming back is a big wake-up call for everyone, not only NRM, but even NUP. I support Semuju. If we are not careful, Museveni will go with Uganda, which will need more 40 years to repair. If we are still lost under his leadership, now imagine after the disappearance. Sami Eto in Fort Portal. I have a message from Davis Rwamhumbu Chalgonza says, National Unity Platform leadership is still intact. Charles, get assured that 2026, 10 or 13 of our MPs might not come back, but new NUP faces will appear. So the rise of Besigye is an ignition in the opposition. A vehicle of Kano Besigye and President Chagulanyi is a win for Ugandans in 2026. My worry is the current CDF might cause some confusion after the win for Ugandans. Tomorrow, Mountains of the Moon University in Fort Portal is getting the first ever female guild president, Grace Akicho somebody. I don't know how this comes in. Yes, Kano Besigye is awakening the sleeping genius in the citizens to liberate themselves from captivity. The poverty levels of the citizens of Uganda with high taxes on each person and services will spark the fire within the people, which the ruling state may fail to stop. It is a matter of time. You cannot keep playing on people. This is Ronald Mugisa. Let's take a break. We'll pick this conversation up in a moment.
Frontline.
Welcome back to this edition of the Frontline on NBS TV. Some from Kasangati says, I think Dr. Kebi realized that there is a gap that NUP has failed to fill. That's why Kebi has resurfaced. However, he should know that His Excellency the President leaves nothing to chance. There's so many messages. James Nkojo says, one thing you can't recycle is wasted time. My advice to Kano Besigye is to quit politics. Another viewer, Ruben says, tell Madame Wanyoto that it's difficult to serve food that you haven't prepared. Museveni and his family are only people knows how Uganda will be 40 years ahead from now. Let those people who call themselves NRM members, chairmans, some of this language, I can't make out these words. I don't know if they're English or something else. Not waste their time explaining what they doesn't know. We shall only trust one person and his family, only have vision for Uganda. The rest better mind their own business. Ruben, you need to clarify that message. I can't pick it out very well. Let me come back to you. Many people are asking, how does the country move forward? The opposition is in the state in which it is. The NRM is in the state in which it is. According to Mukasa Mbide, doesn't have control over its chairman. That when he called SEC, it is SEC which was waiting for him to give directions on where it goes, not SEC putting their chairman to account. I mean, I'm paraphrasing what he said, and I hope I represent you.
Let him keep his Mukasa
Mbide. What does that mean?
Yes. I just want to try, not just that Besigye has seen gaps in the position, but his recent installment of Elias Lukwago as the leader of the faction in Katonga. I think something tells him that he's dead in the waters. At least as far as national politics is concerned. That
is it him who installed or the National Council?
There's always a leading force. There's no doubt that Besigye is the leading force there, and he played a pivotal role in the installation of Elias Lukwago, who had recently joined, by the way. I think he's reading that if you take Lukwago to try and lead a political group around the country, they are dead in the waters. And so I think he would want people to walk under his old wings that he can. But I doubt that he can. But that does not mean his presence cannot complicate or strengthen. Secondly, I also think this is a rider. I think with this gap he reads, he also sees that there's an opportunity to mobilize resources, both internal and external, which I think he sees there are people dangling money out there, foreign groups, to support change in Uganda through the democratic politics, and he's seeing that maybe NOP is not doing it well, DP is not doing it well, and him coming with the old name, he can raise this money. Now, where does the country move? Uganda is not comatose, as in dead. NRM is not comatose, no. NRM is moving. NRM is moving in one direction, mainly because we believe in the leadership of President Museveni. What many of you see as problems, as negatives, as weaknesses, some of us don't see them as weaknesses. We see them as strength. That he has been able to build and lead and expand this organization from hardly 42 people. He has continuously disaggregated it. Now you can say distinctively there's the state wing and the political wing, although Honorable Mukasa Mbide doesn't seem to see the difference between the NRM political wing, the party, and the state. Of course, yes, there is haziness, but it is there. So there are discussions within the NRM as to how do we move the country forward post-Museveni when it does happen. But as long as he has energy and is willing, like it is now, personally, I've said so, I've written so, that I will campaign
for him,
for Museveni, as long as he's willing to be that's part of dealing with the situation we are in. That in my judgment, I think in 2026, we would still be having energy. And let us look around the world. In America, we have two bald-headed men, one who falls on the platform every other time. But now, some of you would say America has institutions. Even here, there was a time in Uganda when we believed you cannot have a police force without a substantive inspector general of police. Now, we know that it's possible for the police to run without a substantive inspector because the institution. Listen.
Are you insinuating that it's a dress rehearsal?
No, listen.
It's a dress rehearsal to have the central bank without leadership and have police without leadership.
Because the Bank of Uganda is not the bank governor. And the bank governor is not the Bank of Uganda. Now we have demonstrated that it's possible for the central bank to actually run and the economy is moving without No, but is there a situation where central bank has failed to take a decision because there is no substantive? Yes, a few years ago we did not know, and some people did not believe that somebody can come from another party and become a leader in another party and government. Today, the NRM has ably demonstrated that it's possible to come from UPC, or even when you're still in UPC, like in the case of Honorable Beta Mom, and you lead the NRM government, you lead the branch of the NRM government. So we've been able to demonstrate. So it is possible in Uganda today, even by the way, to have no president for a day, for 2 days, and things are moving normally. It is possible. And so I would want to tell Honorable Semujo that what the NRM has built is here for durability. You can choose to test it whichever way you want, because you are saying that Museveni wants to take Uganda, the way the Gaddafi took. That's your choice if you want to think that way. Many of us where we stand, we think that there are institutions which will not allow anybody, or indeed Uganda, to go down the path that Honorable Semuju is describing for Sudan, for Egypt, and so on. And Honorable Semuju, maybe you need to go and read and understand better what were the political forces, both internal and international, at play in Libya, in Sudan. On the surface, you may think that the changes that toppled Bashir were internal. From where I sit, I think it was mainly external, but using internal. That they are trying to do here, by the way. So when the Semujus topple us, particularly by the method of SJ, of unconstitutional method, everybody will say, oh, it is the population. But there would have been forces that perhaps nobody saw. And so for us, we think that the NRM, led by Museveni, yes, we can say that power corrupts, as they say, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. I hope that the NRM leadership does not allow power to corrupt it absolutely. And it is not just, Uganda is not run just by, Museveni is the leader, but does not run Uganda alone. He runs with other people. Now, if those other people...
About 2,160,000 elected positions.
If those other people choose to abdicate, if those other people choose to abdicate, for example, leaders just come from a SEC meeting. SEC now has the Speaker of Parliament, the Vice President. We did not elect them there, but the Constitution of the NRM allows the chairman to bring observers. To bring observers. Now, if they now abdicate their responsibility of checking the overbearing of the chairman, then you cannot blame the chairman. If Parliament abdicates the responsibility to check the presidency and the executive, then they cannot blame the executive. If the judiciary abdicates, and if we, the population, the people outside the state structure, abdicate our responsibility. We cannot then blame. And that's the only area I tend to agree with Honorable Semujo, that it should be our collective effort to raise the political consciousness and the positive activism of every Ugandan so that we truly get the change of all the polity that we desire.
Thank you. George Muhimbisa watching us says, I support the idea that Dr. Besigye and colleagues form a political party to become a rallying point for his supporters. It would also help the FDC Katonga leaders to have a vehicle through which to participate in the 2026 elections and other lawful political activities. If it's not done, FDC Katonga leaders will be scattered. Secondly, although Dr. Besigye seems to put much of his trust in the population, masses, than the leaders, whom he calls elites, a mass of supporters without able leadership can only be a mob. It cannot lead a struggle, neither can such a mob offer credible alternative leadership even after changing the regime. It's through political party building that you can identify, nurture, and build leaders. George Muhimbise watching us. Mwangusha Kenneth is watching us from Fort Portal. Thank you for watching. I have a message from as day follows night, Besigye joining the fray guarantees NRM victory. What bewitched Uganda's opposition? Besigye joining hands with NUP would have given NRM a run for their money. Tell Honorable Mbide we love the language. We love his language. This is Kenneth Chamlesiri. I have, let me say, I'll take maybe one more message and then we will move back to, yes, you Honorable, I'll take this. Gumisriza Bensoni from Dambwe, Kamuli Kakiri, says, Dr. Besigye is true definition of opposition. He's not about being party president or president of this country, but he's fighting against a government which doesn't help its own citizens. I pray that if all opposition parties join hands with Kebi, with Dr. Kebi, we take over this country. Honorable Mukasa Mbide, you've been listening into the debate, and I don't know if you have changed your pessimistic standpoint on the fate of the opposition.
No,
or
the fate of the MOU, which is in his armpits.
Wait, by the way,
and he wants other people to push with him.
And by the way, even NRM party is on the opposition. I hope you have listened closely to our interpretation of actually the operationalization of a political party. NRM doesn't equally operate as such. What we are doing on the opposition is like a madman who throws stones, and everything you hit, you call it the target. So for me, I want to come here on the front line and speak frankly.
Please go ahead.
Because there is no way we are going to keep here.
And we also want you to come here and speak frankly.
That is true.
Yes.
There is no way we are going to keep posturing before the masses, and at the end of the day, we expect to tell them that, by the way, we have been declared winners. The former president is now organizing a procedure for assumption of office by a new leader. In Uganda, it is completely unlikely going to be a result of an election that he has organized. If he stopped even organizing elections in his own party, because you see, who elects a Secretary General, he saw it was going to be a problem. That one was phased out. So don't expect that elections will then be held under the ambit of procedures that he has himself designed in the national political arena. So what are we looking at here? We have got what we call the politics of prebendalism and clientelism, where the individuals in a position of authority have an assumption of a right to the resources of the country for sustainability of their own stay in the political offices where they lie. Now, that has caused everybody to be an employee of the president, to the extent that then they have now decided to support the president of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, by axiomatic faith. They no longer even ask whether he's doing anything right or wrong. But for purposes of, they have adopted a moving constitution in their own, at the subconscious level of their brains, that fear is life. So now, before him, everybody is now making sure he must hear you saying that you support it, or else obviously then you are going to lose the object for which you stay and will continue to be in a position where you lie. Now, when people keep talking about how can you win an election against an entity whose every established leader reaches out to the coffers for sustainability of their stay, wherever they are. So it has generated the dichotomy of two types of politicians. Those that are actually bazillionaires, because you can call, if you call them billionaires, I think that is a bit less.
So
versus
bazillionaires are how many? That's how many billions?
It is an excessive reference to those that have got all that it takes to win an election. Now, versus these that are the subject of a protest support. Now, for them, they have also now adopted a system of idiocy. They dazzle the population with wrong opinions to the extent that then it creates the oomph of support for them under the likelihood that they will even defeat the incumbent. I mean, we are just living a life of posturing. And for me, I think, and what Honorable Wanyoto is saying, we are still looking forward to a dialogue. Because we think,
we are open.
We think the country really needs a different strategy.
You can't just walk into a dialogue if you're weak.
That is the problem.
You must have some strength to sit on the table. Previously, when dialogues have been proposed, Dr. Besigye said he would not go for a tea party, to take tea at State House. If you're invited to a dialogue where the opposition is in as weak a position as it is today, what kind of dialogue do you expect to have?
The kind of dialogue we are espousing as the DP is not anchored on a premise that we are a threat to government. It is anchored on a premise that actually government is a threat to the country. You see, patriotism means you must be able, and this I am telling the NRM people, you must be able to save your country even from your own government. So we feel that reason must be the overriding reason, the overriding necessity for dialogue to commence. What happened during, for example, what sparked off the kind of freedoms that we are looking at in Kenya? Because Moi did not stand. He was not living under a threat of being ousted immediately, but at least he sat down and decided, then we can be able to begin dialoguing for the best. We can look at...
Because the contending forces were such that he had no option. Does President Museveni feel the threat
and this is why I'm saying,
of sitting down to dialogue with anybody?
This is why I'm saying that the opposition needs to support this process, to the extent that then it is looked at as a process supported by a multiplicity of our own.
How do you expect the opposition to support you if the agreement is still in the armpit?
But then...
How do you pick it out?
How do you expect to interpret that President Museveni and his leadership are well-intentioned if they cannot listen to reason?
Let me flip the
merely
question.
because it is not being supported by many.
Have you reached out to these other political parties in the opposition? Number two, who do you reach out to when those political parties are as factionalized as they are?
Now, let me tell you, when we are doing this, we have not told anybody that it is easy. It is not an easy phenomenon. We are living in a situation where people are ignorant and they tell you that they don't even want to know. I hope you have heard that one as one of the moving funny songs on the politicians' mouths of certain. Now, in an area of that, in an era of that kind of body politic, it is not going to be easy. We are even engaging God to the extent that prayers can help. We are engaging everybody, beginning with our own, because you see, even our own at the same stage, they had even thought that the memorandum that we signed had amended our constitution. In fact, some of them even thought that it had created now an enigma between them and the opposition in parliament, that they did not even know. Seeing the president of the party...
That's what some of your members are saying.
Yeah, because we have...
some of your leaders in parliament.
Because we have a low relative political maturity of the masses.
Let me take a message from... another message from Mose Chris Tushabe. He says, please listen to me. When Bobby Wine created NUP, he weakened FDC, the opposition. When Besigye came back, he weakened FDC, the opposition. When elections come, someone will say that Museveni cheated them. Are Ugandans fools?
But are they?
What do you say to Mzee Christo Shave?
I don't know what he's saying.
He's saying that every time you emerge with a new political party or faction, you weaken those that exist. That you could actually take it back to when FDC first emerged. It left DP weaker because some of the members, it recruited from the Democratic Party. When ANT emerged, it weakened FDC because it recruited from the FDC. So that by splitting and creating newer political forces, like you're thinking now.
I have subjected myself to 3 elections now. In each of those elections, I have faced a candidate from DP. The last election, I had a candidate from NOB. Certainly, there is a candidate from NRM. For me, the number, sometimes it depends on how you relate to each other. But they don't translate into weakness immediately as people think. The same people who voted for me when I started my political career continue to vote for me. In fact, my votes continued growing. Even if the parties are many, the trouble is many of the parties in Uganda, first of all, don't have enough resources, but they are also parties that are run by candidates themselves. I have gone to Ghana, and the party of G. Rawlings now that is in opposition, someone resigned from parliament to come
and lead it.
No, not to come and become a secretary general. So the party as an institution has some financial capacity to look after people who are running it. In Uganda, what has complicated our discussions for the joint electoral platform has been because those who are involved in the discussions, nearly almost all of them want to be candidates. So if Besigye becomes the main candidate, the DP person thinks that now that will give Semuju an advantage in Ichira. So working together is very bad. That has been the complication.
Is it partly because you haven't built sufficient mass support that you can sit and negotiate and say, if I'm NUP, I am bringing you and guaranteeing that I'm bringing the vote from Central Region. If I'm FDC, this is my stronghold, this is what I bring to the table. Like what Mukasa was referring to.
That was point number 1. Point number 2 is that we also face conditions that are very difficult. So even when you win an election, the only area where I agree with Mukasa, I don't agree with him on the rest, is that it will be Museveni to declare you a winner or Museveni's machinery. I have slept at the Tari Center 2 days to get declared, even when the results are obvious. You have to sleep there, so if you don't sleep there, one day they can announce someone who you defeated. At a presidential level, I am sure Dr. Besigye, at least if I want to quote Sejusa, defeated Museveni 206. Even the last election.
Mukasa agrees with you on that.
Yeah. But Museveni had to announce himself. Even the last election, the performance of Kyagulanyi was generally interfered with. People got arrested, people got beaten, the military was all over. So elections are in themselves not easy, but they can help you, because that's the only time Museveni will allow you. Because last time he had the luxury of COVID. But at least he will allow you to go and mobilize massively the population. And that's why it took him more than 3 days with the military to stop the population from overrunning him.
Okay. Sami is watching us from Fort Portal and says, ask Semuju when are they coming to Fort Portal? Eagerly waiting for them, and Mukasa Mbide should join them and come with KB. Semuju, thanks that you should go. We're continuing this conversation on Afro Mobile. If you're watching us, let's just exhaust a little bit on Afro Mobile.
as Frontline.